Mike Babcock did not coach a single game for the Columbus Blue Jackets between getting hired on July 1st and resigning on September 17th. Let's talk about that on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets. I'm Jay Foster, host of this show. Hayden is on vacation at the minute, so he will not be joining us. So it's just me today on Locked On Blue Jackets. I want to thank you guys for making this your first listen to the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube and we are on Sirius XM. We were going to talk about Traverse City today. The Blue Jackets had a pretty good showing. Adam Fantilli impressed, Jordan DeMay impressed, but unfortunately, the excitement of Traverse City has kind of been overshadowed by a story that began last week. And we deliberately didn't record anything about this show for a variety of reasons, partially Hayden being on vacation, partially because my scheduling has been kind of upside down. But early last week, I believe, a report came out that Mike Babcock had been looking through players' phones in his kind of pre-season meetings with them. The organization denied that. Babcock put out a statement saying that what happened was he had asked to see pictures of Boone Jenner's family, his wedding, his fiancée, etc. And Jenner put out a statement saying, yeah, that was what happened. I didn't have a problem with it. And then the NHLPA got involved and they found out that, shockingly, guys that are married and in their 30s are way happier to share family pictures and go through their photo reel on their phone than 18 to 20-year-olds. So the NHLPA has kind of, I think, uncovered that a lot of the younger Blue Jackets were probably a little bit more uncomfortable with this than the older ones. I know Werenski came out and said that he didn't have a problem with it. Gaudreau came out and said he didn't have a problem. Mathieu Olivier on French-Canadian radio said that he didn't have a problem with it. But evidently enough people did that today, about an hour ago as of recording this, Mike Babcock has resigned as the coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is not what the Blue Jackets need, frankly. It's a distraction, which he says in his statement, which I have pulled up here. Upon reflection, it's become clear that continuing as head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets was going to be too much of a distraction. While I'm disappointed to not have had the opportunity to continue the work we've begun, I know it's in the best interest of the organization for me to step away at this time, and I wish everyone in the organization well in the upcoming season. I don't love this statement for a variety of reasons. I think that there should have been a little bit more accountability from Babcock instead of saying that this whole thing is a distraction. I would have loved to see him engage with, hey, I made a bunch of young players uncomfortable and I'm owning that. And clearly I still have more learning to do because I know a lot of this summer was, let's call it a redemption tour for Babcock, and there was a lot of talk about how he's grown and he's changed and he's learned how to engage with younger players with all of his work that he did at, I believe, the University of Vermont, the University of Saskatchewan, coaching with his son, watching his kids grow up, and he learned a bunch of stuff. Apparently, he didn't learn enough, or he learned the wrong things, or, whatever it is. Something was a problem. So he's gone. The Blue Jackets have signed Pascal Vincent to a 2-year contract for head coach, which we're going to talk about in the next segment. I'm actually really excited about that. I think that's going to be a good thing. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Mike Babcock's hiring because I don't know. I mean, I do know. Was this the best hire that the organization could have made? No. Was it the right hire for the organization to make at the time, knowing what they knew. I don't know. And I think some of the blame here has to lie on people like Jarmo Kekalainen, people like John Davidson, who okayed this hiring, who went out and picked up a guy like Mike Babcock. And there was a lot of effort, there was a lot of emphasis put on, well, he spent 4 years away from the NHL. He's learnt his lesson. But I personally found it a little bit suspicious that once his contract with the Maple Leafs finished was when suddenly he decided, oh, I've learned enough to come back to the NHL. And that kind of never really sat right with me. I know when the hiring happened, I was fairly outspoken about how I disagreed with it, how, especially with a team as young as the Blue Jackets, I don't know that hiring a guy that has famously not been able to work with young players was maybe not the right move for this organization. I was willing to listen, and I did listen. And again, Mike Babcock said all of the right things to the people that put this stuff out there. He said all of the right things to the media. Clearly, he said all of the right things to Kekalainen and Davidson when the hiring process went through. But ultimately, this hiring was a bad idea. I don't think it should have happened. And I hate that it got to this point because it never should have gotten to this point. Jarmo Kekalainen did an interview earlier in the offseason with our friends over at CBjectively Speaking. And he talked a lot about how important character was and how important culture was and how he wanted people in the organization to have good culture and to have good character and to make the organization better because they're good people. And then to turn around and hire a guy like Mike Babcock, it just kind of rang a little bit hollow. Do I think he's capable of change? Maybe. I sure thought so, 2 weeks ago when he's talking about how he has mental health plans in place for all of his different players and he's worked out, okay, I can't say the same thing to every single player. They all need different ways of handling. And that's what I learned when I was working at the University of Saskatchewan, And he was saying all the right things. And I found myself being like, okay, maybe he has grown, maybe he has changed because I wanted that. I didn't want this. I don't think anyone wanted this. I wanted to believe in him. I wanted to believe the best in him. I wanted to believe that he changed. I was suspicious. I was wary. And I knew that he would have a really short leash with the fan base, with the media, with, people like me. I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but only to a certain extent. And the reason we didn't talk about this before was because it was a lot of he said, the Spit and Chicklets came out and said, this is happening. This is what's going on. I've got a ton of players texting me. I feel like it's fair to not just believe Spit and Chicklets and Paul Bissonnette. Like, I did not take them at that word. I absolutely believed that Babcock would do something like this, but I didn't want to immediately say, oh, I definitely believe Paul Bissonnette, just because I don't think Spit and Chicklets is the kind of journalism that, breaks news and, things like that. So it's tough. It really is. It was very much, I was stuck between a rock and a hard place because I believed that Spit and Chicklets could make something up like this for clicks, or that they could have misunderstood something or twisted it, or, to me, it felt a lot like a game of telephone that had gotten out of hand. My working theory for a long time was that he'd gone into this meeting with Boone Jenner and said, hey, can I see pictures of your fiance? I want to get to know you. I want to get to know her, pictures of your family, pictures of your dog, whatever. And Boone Jenner's then gone back to the group chat with all the players and said, hey, heads up, Babs asked to see some pictures. If you've got anything in your photo roll that you don't want him to see, get rid of it now, because he's probably going to ask to see pictures. And that got twisted into Mike Babcock is like snatching phones out of people's hands and airplaying photos to, the entirety of Columbus. So I didn't want to believe that. I absolutely did believe that it was something he would do. I didn't think that Boone Jenner would come out and be like, yeah, I was uncomfortable, but I also didn't think he would lie. Boone Jenner has no reason for us not to trust him. So without any more information, I was like, okay, Boone Jenner says that there's nothing wrong here. Johnny Gaudreau says that there's nothing wrong here. I have no reason to disbelieve these players. But but it was a real tough kind of rock and a hard place here of, do I believe this podcast that is, in my mind, not super reliable in terms of honesty? Or do I believe Mike Babcock, who has a record of doing things like this, And it turns out, hey, maybe we should have listened to the podcast. It's a real tough position for the organization to be in. It's a tough position for the players to be in, because I'm sure none of them wanted it to get this far, because hockey players don't like to rock the boat. I'm sure every single player, bar one or two, maybe they were uncomfortable. Maybe they didn't want to say anything. And now, the NHLPA's got involved, the NHL's got involved, a bunch of the, so it was Ron Hainsey and the head of the NHLPA, Marty Walsh, flew to Columbus to talk to a bunch of the players, It's probably easier to do that in person than it is to be like, hey, texting someone to be like, I'm uncomfortable about this, because hockey players, like I say, they don't like to rock the boat. But it's done. He's gone. We've got a new head coach, the Blue Jackets. Basically in the same breath, Babcock resigned. They promoted Pascal Vincent, first-year head coach. Was the bench boss for a couple of games last season. We're going to talk about him in just a minute and kind of what he brings to the table. That's coming up next on Locked On Blue Jackets. I want to thank everyone once again for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is going to continue to be free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, on SiriusXM, Monday to Friday, every single week, especially now that content is happening again. I feel a little bit like the monkey's paw finger curling down Simpsons gif. Because I was like, man, I really wish we had some news to talk about. Hey, we've got the prospect tournament. That'll be fun at least. But man, it's been, the Blue Jackets haven't done anything since July 1st. And the universe heard me and was like, hey, you want some content? We'll create some content. But Mike Babcock resigned. Pascal Vincent, new head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I like this. This was a head coach option that the Blue Jackets reportedly were quite interested in at the start of the summer, when we kind of looked at, okay, here's a bunch of guys that we think could be named head coach. Babcock was one of them. Pascal Vincent was another one. Andrew Brunette was another one. I liked Vincent a lot. I thought he has a decent resume. I liked what he did with the team when they, when Brad Larson took time away due to a personal issue. I like Babcock, I like Pascal Vincent a lot as a head coach. He also released a statement. I want to read out Jarmo Kekalainen's statement, actually. Pascal Vincent is an outstanding coach. He knows our players and organization and is respected by everyone here. He was a strong candidate for our head coaching position several months ago and is in the best position to help us navigate this change as we begin camp and lead our team moving forward. He's familiar with so much of the team. The Blue Jackets haven't brought in a ton of new players, but Pascal Vincent knows the guys that were already there. He was here last year, and I believe this is going to be his third year with the organization. He's got experience as head coach in the AHL with the Manitoba Moose. He was previously an assistant coach with the Winnipeg Jets. Like I said, first head coach position, but I know he interviewed with at least one other team for that head coach position this summer. I want to say Calgary or potentially Anaheim, not Edmonton. It's very late here. Apologies for misspeaking a couple of times, but I like him a lot. Like I said, I think he strikes that balance between players coach and GM's coach that Brad Larson struggled with. Todd Richards was very much a players coach. He wanted to be the friend, and it didn't work out. John Tortorella was very much the GM's coach. He didn't care if you liked him or not. I thought Brad Larson would strike a very fine balance between those two, but it turns out no. Pascal Vincent, I think, could be the success story that we wanted Brad Larson to be. He has shown that he is open to change and adaptation. He was the one that put Patrick Laine in at the center position during for those 2 games until Laine got injured, because everyone got injured last season. And I'm just really excited to see what he can do. He has, like I said, a lot of experience. When he was with the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles and the Montreal Juniors in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He had 10 winning seasons and 9 playoff series wins. He won he won the award for the best head coach for the Ron LaPointe Trophy with Cape Breton in 2008. And then he, like I said, he had success with the Manitoba Moose and the Winnipeg Jets. This is a difficult day, Vincent says, but I'm looking forward to this opportunity and appreciate the organization's confidence in me to lead this team. We have a great group of guys that have been working very hard to prepare for the season. My focus will be to work with our staff to help them get better every day and be ready for what we believe will be an exciting season. Like I said, I am cautiously optimistic about this. Pascal Vincent doesn't have any allegations of abuse or bullying or anything like that against him. So, great start, frankly. I don't know. I have a good feeling about this hire, which is maybe unfounded, but I think this is what the Blue Jackets needed. I was always skeptical of Mike Babcock's efficiency with a team as young as the Blue Jackets. He hasn't taken a team to the playoffs since he hasn't won a playoff series since about 2012. I know he has a lot of accolades of he won a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings, but that 2008 Red Wings team could probably have had, I could have coached that team to a Stanley Cup win. It was just unbelievable, that team. So he's been out of the league for 4 years. He doesn't have a current understanding of what you need to be an NHL coach anymore, I don't think. And could he have adapted? Maybe. I wasn't convinced by that. When we were looking through all of our candidates, Pascal Vincent was the one I kept coming back to. I think he's smart. I think, like I said, I think he's open to change. I think he knows the players. He knows the systems. Being an AHL coach means you work with young players in a way that, guys that don't coach in the AHL have. And he's worked in major junior hockey. His CV, his resume is impressive to me. And I like that choice a lot. I just kind of wish that we'd done this 6 months ago, or not 6 months ago. How does time work? I wish we'd done this in May when they fired Brad Larson. This whole thing has just felt like a PR nightmare in a way that doesn't feel good. I hate that this happened. I feel like there's going to be a lot of comments of man, people were wishing for Mike Babcock's downfall, and they're so happy that this happened. No, I'm not happy that a bunch of our younger players felt like they were so uncomfortable with Mike Babcock that it took someone being the whistleblower and for the NHLPA to get involved. I like to think that Boone Jenner, if they'd gone to Boone Jenner, that he would have said something about it. If they'd gone to Johnny Gaudreau, if they'd gone to Zach Werenski, if they'd gone to Jarmo Kekalainen, whoever they'd gone to, but they clearly didn't feel like they were able to do that. And that's the other thing. It's why didn't they tell Mike Babcock that they were uncomfortable with this? Because for me, it's not necessarily the fact that he was invading their privacy like this. It was the fact that I think the thing that bothered me really was that he's clearly created a reputation or an atmosphere that made the players feel like they couldn't say something to him. If they were comfortable saying, hey, no, I'm not comfortable sharing pictures, then that's a whole other thing. But I think a lot of them clearly felt, oh, I don't feel like I can say no because he's the head coach or because he's Mike Babcock. And that, to me, is a much bigger problem than Babcock asking in the first place. I disagree with him asking in the first place. I think it's an invasion of privacy, but I can see where the argument is hey, I want to get to know people. I want to, can I see pictures of your dog, your house? What did you do this summer? Where did you go? Show me pictures of you surfing in Greece or whatever. I don't know if people surf in Greece. I understand that he clearly doesn't see anything wrong with this, but then maybe therein lies the problem. If he doesn't see that asking to see pictures of people's personal lives is an invasion of privacy, and he says, I showed my pictures, but he's a grandfather. Grandfathers love sharing pictures, whether they're warranted or not, and so I get it. I really do. I didn't want it to come to this. I would have loved if the Blue Jackets had either avoided all of this mess by simply not hiring him in the first place, or if it turns out that he had actually learned from all of the talking that he'd been doing, hey, I'm not going to invade my players' privacy, or if he'd fostered an environment where players could say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, please stop. Because there's clearly been some form of miscommunication here, and now here we are in just a big old mess. Training camp opens on Wednesday. The Blue Jackets are down an assistant coach now, obviously with Pascal Vincent stepping up. Maybe they'll bring someone up from the Monsters. Maybe they will make a completely new hiring. Maybe someone like Jared Boll will step in. I believe he's been working as part of the player development and coaching and prospect development and all of that stuff. Maybe someone like him steps in as the interim. But talk about a terrible way to start the season. And I want to talk a little bit more about what this could mean in terms of impact for the team this early in the season. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. First, though, I have to tell you guys all about FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers are going to get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, and all you have to do is place a $5 bet. That is $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Just put your $5 on, I don't know, the Bengals winning a football game, or college football, or the NHL, or the MLB. You know, if you put money on Mike Babcock not making it to game 1 of the regular season, like, you would have probably made a fair bit of money. And you're going to get those $200 bonus bets whether you win or lose that initial $5 bet. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the team and about what this means for them going forward. Like I said, they're down a body in terms of coaching staff. That's a problem. At training camp, there's going to be a lot of players. I don't know what the roster is off the top of my head, but training camp rosters are usually between 40 and 50 players, probably closer to 40 and 45. That's a lot of players that you need to be able to corral. So, like, immediately, that feels like a problem to me. I don't know how much work Babcock had done with this season in terms of bringing in systems, in terms of bringing in drills. Is Pascal Vincent going to change things up? I would like to think no. He probably will do adaptations of what happened last season, hopefully better. But, man, like I said, this is not what the team needed. The team needed a hot start. They've got this brand new hotshot 1C that had 5 points in his second game in a Blue Jackets jersey. I was really excited to talk about what a good tournament Adam Fantilli had, what a good tournament Jordan Dumais had, what a good tournament all these guys had. And instead, we're talking about this. And now the question is, what does this mean for training camp? What does this mean for preseason? Is this going to affect the players? Is this going to affect the team? You know, I don't think that there's as much of, like, I don't think it's not like there's a big rift between the older players and the younger players on this team. But I wonder if there's going to be not problems, but something to work through in terms of, hey, why didn't you feel comfortable going to the captain of the team? Why didn't you feel comfortable going to, I'm not sure off the top of my head who our NHLPA representative on the team is, but why didn't you feel comfortable going to him? Like, why did you feel that you had to go to someone else who then went to Paul Bissonnette? Because I don't think it was ever confirmed that he got a direct report from a player on the Blue Jackets. It was, I heard from someone that the Blue Jackets are doing this. And we don't know who that is. We may never know who that is. Why did they feel comfortable doing that instead of going to Boone Jenner or going to Johnny Gaudreau, or, even going to someone like Eric Branson, who is a leader on this team? It's, I don't know. That to me feels like a problem, is that there's a disconnect between the young players and the older players. Which, I say older players, the team is all very, very young. I think they have one player over the age of 30, I think. And maybe 2 more players that are either just turned 30 or about to turn 30. So that needs fixing. They need to do something about it. And I don't know that we're really going to see the repercussions of this until preseason starts, which I believe is in like a week and a half. I'm just going to see if I can pull up the schedule right now. The Blue Jackets' first game is September 24th. They have a split squad. They have a series of split squad games against the Pittsburgh Penguins. One at 1 p.m. Eastern, one at 7 p.m. Eastern. So one home, one away. I don't know that we'll see the repercussions of this mess until then. Maybe even till the regular season starts. We've seen it before. The Blue Jackets have a fantastic preseason and then completely fall apart as soon as the regular season starts. Ultimately, I think this is a good thing for the team. I think whether you personally feel that this was a fireable offense or whatever, I think doesn't really count. I think for me, it's about the team. This has to be about what's best for the team and what's best for the future of this team. And I think if you've got young players that feel like they can't say no to the head coach, like that is a problem to me. And so, do I hate that this happened? Yes. Do I wish it had happened 6 weeks ago instead of 3 days before training camp? Also, yes. But it happened. It's here. The Blue Jackets are going to deal with it. This was the worst possible way this could have gone, I think. And it was so easy to avoid. I don't necessarily think that Jarmo Kekalainen should resign or be fired because of this. I do wish that I wish all this hadn't happened. It sucks. I was excited about this season. Traverse City was great. The Blue Jackets got Adam Fantilli, 3rd overall in the draft. Everyone is healthy. Zach Werenski's back. Like Patrick Laine is being a leader on this team by, inviting Adam Fantilli to live with him, which is still very funny to me. Everything was kind of falling into place for what was going to be a really fun preseason, opening of the season, etc., for the Blue Jackets. And now we have this. And this isn't going to be the last time that we talk about this. Hayden will be back for tomorrow's episode. We're going to be talking about the Cleveland Monsters in that, but I'm sure we'll have some Babcock talk involved in that as well. And this isn't going to go away. And it just doesn't feel good. I want to believe that everyone on my team is a good person. I want to believe the best of people. I wanted to believe that he'd grown and changed. And I wanted to believe that Jarmo Kekalainen was smart enough not to hire someone that had red flags like this. But none of those things are true, it turns out, and it's just, I don't know, it's really disheartening as a hockey fan who wants to believe the best in people to be disproven like this. So it is what it is. Congratulations to Pascal Vincent. I think he's going to be a good head coach. I'm excited to see what he does with the team. Maybe we'll see Patrick Laine back at center, which is something we had, kind of written off in terms of how lineups work and things like that. But who knows, man? Like I said, just a little bit ago, tomorrow's episode, we are going to be talking about the Cleveland Monsters. We've got Dina Weinheimer of AHL News Now to come and talk to us about the Monsters. We'll do a little bit of Traverse City talk, and we'll see how excited we should be for the young players and the prospects on this team and the AHL team, because I think if you love the Blue Jackets, you should also love the Monsters. And I think the Monsters are going to be exciting this year. If you look again at Traverse City, you look at all the players that aren't going to be on the Blue Jackets roster that will be playing for the Monsters. James Malatesta, Luca Del Bel Baluz, maybe guys like Jiricek, and even guys like Nick Blankenburg could be on the Monsters this season. So we're going to be talking about Dina about all of that. And that's all I've got for today, though. Like I said, Hayden will be back tomorrow. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on SiriusXM. You can find me on Twitter at _ Jacob Foster, JAKOB, FORSTER. You can find Hayden at HaydenH971. You can find the show at LO _ Blue Jackets. Please email us proof of you subscribed to our YouTube channel, and you will be entered into a draw to win 2 Blue Jackets tickets to, I believe, the November 2nd game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's really exciting for whoever might win that. That's from us to you guys for being great and for helping us hit 500 YouTube subscribers. We decided to do that. So email us a screenshot of proof that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, and we'll get you entered into that draw. So that's exciting. If nothing else, thank you once again for listening. for making us your first listen of the day. Hopefully, we will continue to be your first listen of the day. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.